So let me start by saying I really enjoyed this movie, and it pulled back the curtain on something that I'm really not familiar with. And I have plenty of questions, but I always like starting off when I have more than 5 minutes with a few other kind of questions. I promise they're harmless. For each of you, what TV series would you love to guest star on?
Jeez. I haven't really watched one lately. So I'm sort of lost. Honestly, if I could, I'd like to go back in time and guest star on Bonanza.
Okay. I didn't know we could go back in time. That's a whole other thing.
I thought I'd throw a qualifier in
there. Working Moms on Netflix. Have you seen this? Catherine Reitman's show. It's not really. You're not really the demographic, Frasier.
No.
It's just a really funny comedy about being a mother and also working. I don't know but it's hard. Yeah. I don't know what I'd be on it. Going back in time. Going back in time. Well, obviously I'd be on Cheers or Frasier, so I could work with Kelsey again.
Very good. Yeah. It would have been fun to have you on. So we'll have to deal with that later.
I am curious, what movie or movies do you think you've seen the most? And I don't mean during the pandemic, I mean in general.
The Searchers.
Clue. Based on the board game. It was a comedy.
Oh, that's funny.
I memorized it. I know it by heart. It's very funny, and it gets funnier every time you watch it.
It was funny.
My last question before getting to the movie. When was it that you felt like you could be an actor and pay rent earlier in your career?
I started working when I was still living at my parents' house because I was underage. So, so I was lucky because when I started out and was auditioning, I didn't have to pay rent. And then by the time I moved out, I was working more. So I was lucky that way.
Thanks,
great. Mom and Dad.
Yeah. Mine was a complete leap of faith. I just walked into work one day at O'Neill's on 6th Avenue. And I thought, I don't want to be a waiter anymore. And I said to Michael, the manager, I said, I got to quit. I have to. And he said, I get it. And I walked out. I got a job as an actor the next day, and I've never had another one.
That's amazing.
Yeah, lucky.
Extremely lucky. Jumping into why I get to talk to the two of you. What was it about the script and story for this particular project that said, I really want to do this?
Well, for me, it's always just, is it a role I've played before? Does it talk about something I don't know about? These are all considerations I make, but it's primarily, I've never played that note before. I've never played that guy before. I've never done that thing before. And so there were several of those things that hit me with this role. And it's always nice to be able to, I don't like to do movies that are trying to make a point, but when it seems like the story and some sort of message come along in a sort of seamless manner, then I'm okay with it. I mean, I don't like movies that beat you over the head with some sort of message they're trying to get across. But I didn't sense that in this film. I sensed that each thing that you might take away from it was trenchant and important, and so I really embraced the film and found out along the way that it was really, really hard. It took a toll, It was very emotional, and I found out longing for this character to make a human connection that he just was incapable of making.
For me, there was a really good cast attached already, Kelsey and Colman and Janeane. And then the script was just really lovely. And I felt like it got me thinking about moral issues that doctors face that I had never really thought about before. I think we tend to think of doctors as having a skill set and they're superhuman. And if something happens that's a tragedy, it's out of their hands. But these doctors really are making the decision of who gets to live and who doesn't. And I had never really thought of that before. But I feel like the way the movie handles it in terms of understanding them as full people outside of the hospital and it humanizes everybody in the film, the patients, the doctors, the administrators, in a way that I thought was really refreshing. Because, we see medical dramas all the time on TV, and this one just felt special.
Yeah, and I agree with both things that you guys said. It doesn't beat you over the head with a message. It's just sort of pulling, like I said at the beginning, it pulls back the curtain on something that I really wasn't familiar with.
Yeah.
I'm assuming both of you did some sort of research prior to getting the role or just making the movie. Were there any things that really surprised you to learn about this process of what goes on behind the scenes?
It wasn't a surprise to me. It seemed like it all made sense. I mean, even the idea that somebody might want to try to buy a heart, I mean, that makes perfect sense to me. But it's certainly it's a complicated world, and that was not a surprise. So I mean, I'm not sure I was surprised so much as just in some ways I was disappointed. That we can't just do better. But it's there it is. I don't know how you make it better, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I think the movie is really a love letter to doctors, and it's Austin describes it. It's showing a well-intentioned but imperfect system, and I think there's been lots of conversations in the news and about the healthcare system and how much it's dependent on and influenced by money. And so, yeah, it wasn't a surprise, but I was glad that it was part of our drama.
One of the things that I think that the film touches on, which is kind of it's the whole message of, is it worth saving one person to save many? Or is it, where is that line, if you will? And I found that to be very interesting and also very honest, because there is that influx of money that, that's how it's a very complicated and dicey issue. And I had no question there. I was trying to go somewhere and it didn't go.
Well, no, but you bring up an interesting idea in the movie too, because what I think is that the arguments on both sides are very balanced. So you have in that discussion over this donation that's going to be made to the hospital if a certain person gets the heart, the nurse brings up, we could use $25 million. Like we need renovations in this hospital, and we can save a lot more people if we have a functioning system here. So, which is a valid argument. So, I think that the movie is not what Kelsey was saying about not liking movies that hit you over the head with an idea. This I think what Austin succeeded in doing with this movie is that every argument is a valid one. And so it really is it is a really challenging subject matter.
An old friend of mine once said that the purpose of great art is to make people ask questions. And I think arguably this movie leaves you with several. And whether or not we've provided an answer is not really what's important. It's the fact that you're asking them.
Before I run out of time with the two of you, I have an individual question for each of you. Julie, I'm very curious about this Orphan First Kill and the fact that it's a prequel to a movie from 10 years ago. And Kelsey, obviously, I am incredibly curious about this Paramount Plus version of Frasier. What can you tease people about the series, and when do you start filming?
Well, we don't actually have a date when we're going to start filming. We're still kind of breaking the story a little bit. We're doing a polish now. We think we're going to get most of the actors back. I'm certainly hopeful that we will, and I'm fairly confident that they'll come back. We have a story to tell, that can actually be told with or without them, honestly. But I want them back because that's what I always dreamed of. I thought we should explore all their lives in their third act. And so that is my hope. But when will we see a Frasier? Probably in the first quarter of next year.
The working title was Esther, which I really like, which is the name of the girl. But yeah, it's what's remarkable is that Isabel Fuhrman, who played the little girl in the original Orphan, now reprises her role as the same girl, same age, even though Isabel's older now. She's 23, I think. But I just went and did ADR, which was the voice recording for it. And I was floored because they didn't use CGI. The tricks that they did with the camera and different perspective tricks that they had, plus her costume and prosthetics and all that, she looks like a child. And her performance is stunning because she embodies a child too, in the way that she walks and the way she talks and all that. Anyway, but yeah, it's I think fans of the first one will enjoy this one as well, because there is a huge twist that I can't give away, but it's got all that crazy psychologically terrorizing stuff that the first one had. And just that this character that Isabel plays, Esther or Lena, or the multiple names that she has, it's like, it reminds me of why Norman Bates was so captivating. It's just like a sociopath, but in this child. So it was very fun to work on for somebody who doesn't watch horror movies.
I honestly, congratulations on this movie. Can't wait for the two things you guys mentioned. Good luck with the rest of your speed dating today.
Thank you.
Yes, totally.